views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren, Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we will update you and discuss how the presidential election will be affecting Bronx schools and communities. Also, we'll learn about a public health video showcasing the myths concerning the COVID-19 transmission, as well as vaccine development. Then we'll talk about the initiatives Fresh Direct is actually doing in feeding the community during this Thanksgiving season. And a little later on in the show, we'll sit with the executive director of New Yorkers for Parks, discussing the challenges happening in Bronx open spaces. And then finally, we'll learn about the Bronx Community College's Radiologic Technology program at BCC and what students can expect when pursuing this career. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren, Jaime, and today is Wednesday, November the 11th. You're watching Open, a live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also want to encourage you to stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. And then we also want to welcome our viewers who are watching Open on MNN's channel, as Open is being broadcast live on Manhattan Neighborhood Network live simultaneously. Special shout out to all of our viewers. Well, a lot has been going on throughout the course of this past week and weekend. We can only take you through a couple of things, but we begin now with our Bronx updates. Starting things off, Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States of America. This comes after Biden won Pennsylvania, putting him over the 270 electoral votes required to win the presidency this past weekend. The election win marks a historic moment in the United States. At the age of 77, President-elect Biden will be the oldest American president to serve. Meanwhile, also of historic note, the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will become the first Black woman as also the Vice President. She's also a first person of South Asian descent ever appearing on a major party's presidential ticket. Meanwhile, incumbent President Donald Trump has refused to concede the election, vowing not to give up on his re-election hopes. He's filed lawsuits in 6 states, hoping to have the projected election results overturned. That's all the time we have for our Bronx update. Stay tuned. We've got more Open coming up. We'll be right back right after this.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
Welcome back. Urban Dove began as an after-school program for at-risk youth in 1998. It since has become a unique and innovative alternative high school for overage and undercredited youth, combining a rigorous academic curriculum with a hands-on real-world award-winning college readiness program. And with President-elect Joe Biden pledging to take now his campaign to significantly boost federal education funding and focusing on, quote, neighborhood public schools, the question is, how does that affect Bronx schools and communities, more particularly charter schools? Joining us now to share a little bit more is the executive director of the Urban Dove Charter Academy. We've got Nanda, and then also the New York State Senator of the 32nd Senatorial District, Louis Sepúlveda, who was also reelected this past election day. And first of all, I'll start off with State Senator Sepúlveda. Tell us your feelings on being reelected. And then let's also talk about this here. As I mentioned in the intro, President-elect Biden saying, listen, when it comes to priority and focus, it looks like it's going to go to public schools and possibly charter schools can get caught in the mix. Give us your thoughts.
Well, first on the election, thank you very much. 2 more years to serve the community that I live in. I was elected in the assembly in 2012. So at the end of this term, it'll be my 10 years. And what it basically tells me is that I'm getting old and I'm getting gray. Work. With respect to charter school, look, the Bronx has, I think that after Senator Brian Benjamin of Harlem, has the most charter school students enrolled of any county. And so I cannot completely disregard charter schools or be critical the way some of my colleagues are. What I've always said is that we should take the best of what the charter schools provide. And make sure that we apply some of those principles, some of those teaching methods to our public schools. And let's not get involved in the politicization of charter schools, because that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help children. You know, I have to constantly remind people that charter school students are public school students. This is not an elitist system of education that many profess. Certainly, I don't favor removing any funds from the traditional public schools. But the record has demonstrated that, generally speaking, the charter schools have done better with less funding for our students. And so I'm going to look at all options and not cut off a charter school or development of charter schools because they are charter schools per se. I'm going to see how effective every institution in my district is at educating our children. One of the most important components of any economic development plan we have. We know that our kids are graduating at about 60% rate, as opposed to 80-something% in the rest of the city. And so what happens is when you have the difference in education, our kids' economic development is also slowed down, and you have that income gap that continues to develop, the wealth gap. And the biggest, quickest, most effective way to cure that is to make sure that all the kids in our districts have a quality education. That's one of the main components that we're going to need for economic development for the coming years in the Bronx.
Yeah. Jay, I want to bring you in, Executive Director of the Urban Dove Charter School right here in the borough of the Bronx. Talk to us a little bit about your school and how you feel about this right now, because as you know, the senator says, there is a great possibility for great potential in our charter schools, but yet and still with a greater emphasis placed on public schools, you guys can honestly be on the back burner.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and congratulations again, Senator. Great to have you in the Bronx for 2 more years, and we look forward to continuing to work with you in your office. You know, he makes a great point in saying that charter schools are not elite schools. Certainly, Urban Dove, fits that category. We serve overage, undercredited students, which are, some of the most vulnerable students in the system. And charter schools are public schools. District schools are public schools. These are public school children. And so I think it's really important that we focus on that. We make sure that all students have great educational opportunities. The students that we serve specifically at Urban Dove are students that have not found success in their district high schools. In order to come to Urban Dove, you have to have failed 9th grade. Some of our students have failed 9th grade twice. In a district school. And we have a great relationship with the district schools in our communities because they know that their students are not having success there. It's an alternative option at Urban Dove, and they can send them to us. They get a smaller classroom, they get a full-time coach, they get sports-based youth development, a lot of things that we can do to make sure that they're getting the attention and the focus that they need. We serve some of the most vulnerable students in the system, and this pandemic, as we all know, has disproportionately negatively impacted vulnerable students. To echo the senator's words, I'm thrilled Joe Biden is president. I think he's going to do some wonderful things for our country. And frankly, I think he's got some great ideas on education. I hope that we don't politicize charter schools. I hope we truly look at charter schools, school by school, who they are, what they're doing, are they effective, are they serving students in need, and if they are, we should support them, and if they're not, then we shouldn't. And I hope that he takes a sophisticated look at it, but as you mentioned, it's going to be a philosophical difference of opinion, I think, out of the gate. And I think some education, frankly, is going to be required for the charter sector to make sure that from the federal government on down, they understand truly what charter schools are doing on the ground. And I think anybody who came and visited many of the charter schools in the Bronx, including Urban Dove Team Charter School 2, will see that we're doing great work, important work. Our families and our young people are having success where they traditionally have not had success. And it is critical that that work continue.
Yeah. I want to talk to you both about the issue that's going on right here in our community as well. Talking a little bit more about the issue of the coronavirus. As we know, right here in the borough of the Bronx, numbers continue to rise. Senator Sepúlveda, I'll start with you first. Give me a little bit about your perspective, then I'll come to Jay and talk about how the school is navigating through this. But give me your perspective right now. A lot of concern on many people's parts on the fact that we're seeing not a decrease, but actually an increase.
Well, since the advent of Corona, I've been almost maniacal about reading the data and getting all the information about the levels of positivity rates. And we have seen that in the last couple of days, the positivity rate in the city in the Bronx has gone from about 1.2 to almost 3%. That is alarming when you consider what's going on with the rest of the country. Where you're seeing that in less than 3.5 weeks, we had 1 million more individuals that were infected with the virus, something that took us a lot longer. And yet we're going at an accelerated pace where about 100,000 people in the country are being coming back with a positivity rate. And so I have been traveling throughout all the train stations in the Bronx, in and out of my district, giving out face coverings and PPE, because this is the only way we're going to be able to prevent the increase in COVID cases in the Bronx. It's the only way. We got to work together, disregard political lines, political arguments, and make sure that we do this. That is essentially the first firewall against the spread in our district. When you couple what's going on with the fact that we still are, as a county, one of the worst counties in terms of health. A lot of our health indicators still have not improved despite great efforts by leadership in the Bronx, but we still have a major problem that we are 62 out of 62. You see a lot of poor Black and brown communities in our county. And generally speaking, as you saw from the advent of COVID, it was our communities that were severely impacted. The Latino community had about 34% positivity rate, 29% African-American rate. So our communities have well over 50% of the positivity rates in the city of New York. So we have to make sure that we remain vigilant, that we continue to use face masks. I went to an event this past weekend at a playground where I saw hundreds of people gathering without masks on. And it was very upsetting because I don't think they realized the risk that they're putting themselves in and others. So from my perspective, a lot of what I'm going to be doing in the next few months is to make sure that we get this COVID crisis under control and it doesn't become a massive wave again here in the Bronx the way it was back in March.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. We are out of time for our segment. But I want to thank you both for taking the time to share with us. Jay, continue to do the great work at the Charter School, Urban Dove. And as we get into the new year, I want to bring you back and let us know and give us an update as to how things are faring, particularly after the new president takes office.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. Senator Sepúlveda. Huh?
Biden-Harris all the way.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yes, that's the ticket right now, Biden-Harris. Senator Sepúlveda, Jay, Nanda, thank you so much for being with us here on Open. We're going to take a quick break. We got more show coming back. We'll be right back in a few. Welcome back. The COVID-19 Doesn't Care is a public health video that's actually showcasing an entertaining, non-judgmental, empathetic, and apolitical myth-busting riff concerning COVID-19. The video includes scientific information about reliable academic sources about COVID-19 transmission and vaccine development. Here to tell us a little bit more is the Provost, the Vice President of Research and Faculty at Kean University, Dr. Jeffrey H. Toney, and also MD at NYU Langone Medical Center, Dr. Stephanie Ishak. And thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure, Daren. Thank you for having us on, and thank you for the interest in our work to promote public health.
Well, thank you. And I'll start with you first, Dr. Jeff. If you just share a little bit with us about the COVID-19 Doesn't Care. As we said, it's a public health initiative, right? Raising awareness, and amidst the fact that we've got our numbers that continue to rise, your work seems very important at this time.
Well, thank you. Well, Dr. Ishak and I really felt that there have been so many confusing, conflicting messages to the public about COVID-19. You hear, going back to February, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. There's a vaccine coming, vaccines aren't safe, all these different conflicting messages. So we really felt that the best way to connect with the public is to connect with them on an empathetic, understanding level, to not necessarily focus on the scientific information, because we know that it changes every day as we learn more and more about the virus. And I think Dr. Ishak, as my collaborator, as a physician scientist, can bring a different perspective to that as well.
And we know that you work on the front lines, Dr. Ishak. You tell me a little bit about that work, what it's been like for you on the front lines amidst COVID-19.
It's been obviously very stressful. It's been quite an experience, but I think we're doing a lot better compared to how things were back in March. But it continues to be a struggle, obviously. The numbers keep rising. Right now, working on the front lines is a very difficult process for me. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy that I'm able to contribute in such a positive way to saving lives and helping inform people. And so relating my work as a physician scientist to this video and the importance of how we came about the script was really something that was important. So I had many patients that I've obviously seen during this time, and some of the stories that I've witnessed have been, quite I guess I want to say very impactful. And so I want to give an example of an instance of a patient that I had to deal with and how it came about integrating into our script. And so there was a patient that I had who did not want to wear a mask, completely against mask wearing, completely against anything that was being talked about on the news and in the media, and also including what doctors have been saying, wear a mask, social distance, and they just didn't want to comply with this. So after talking to them in a very non-judgmental manner and in a very empathetic way, I was able to relay to them the importance of mask wearing. So I listened to what they had to say. I tried to be empathetic. I tried to be non-judgmental, and speaking to them in this manner allowed them to understand things from a different perspective. So I want to just say that the tone, the attitude, and the way you display concern for patients can change how people think. Is the delivery of the information. It's not what you say, but it's how you say it, right? And so I was able to convince multiple patients to wear masks and to social distance and to follow what the CDC was saying and what other doctors and scientists have been trying to relay. And I think the political divisiveness that we've been dealing with right now have convinced people to think of the virus as a political issue, but it's not a political issue. It's a public health issue. And so me combining my experience on the front line, dealing with sick patients, but also patients who don't want to comply, and then relating it to this video has really been able to allow me to, in a very effective way, perform science communication and try to relay my message, which is, listen to the experts.
Right. And when we talk about this video, obviously, what is the takeaway, Dr. Jeff, for people who watch this video? Obviously, you said it's apolitical. There's a lot of things to it. What do you think is the takeaway?
Well, the main takeaway is to, instead of focusing on ourselves as an individual, to remember that when we're in a pandemic that affects all of society, that we distilled it down into 3 simple words. Think we, not me. In other words, if you think about your behavior affects the entire community, and we all want to protect our families, we want to protect our neighborhood, we want to protect the community, that if we have that kind of mindset, it's going to help us all in the end. And the other important part of our video is to emphasize the importance of information that comes from a reliable, authoritative source. We get so much information from so many different sources. It's no wonder the public is confused. So it's only a 3-minute video, but in the last minute or so, we focus on the question of, think about where you got the information. Is it timely? Is it accurate? And does it reflect what the experts are saying now? Because as Dr. Ishak said, if the public will, in a sense, remove themselves from the politics, focus on community public health, the fact that we all care for one another, that we have empathy as a broader community, and I'm so glad we have this chance to share that message, that at the end of the day, we will get through all this together. We'll be stronger than ever, even though right now, as a society, we're ripped apart and we have to talk to each other through computers instead of in person.
Yeah. Well, talk to me, Dr. Stephanie, about the fact that you're actually being featured and your work is actually being featured at the Scientific Research Honor Society Art and Film Festival. What's that like for you, getting that kind of response and being out there?
It's been amazing, honestly. The responsiveness that we've gotten from this video has been amazing. Just to give you a little bit of statistics, we have over 10,200 views across all platforms. That includes Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. We've reached over 274,000 people on Facebook. So we've received really, really great response, and it's been an awesome opportunity to be a part of this program and being able to really reach people on a high level. So saving lives in the hospital is really important to me, but also being able to effectively communicate in this way reaches my message across to the whole world, essentially, because in our video, there are people from India. It's international. We've included a very diverse group of people, and that was important to me as well. And Dr. Toney, including a diverse group of people to really get across our message and be inclusive and in a very empathetic way, tell people, hey, we need to protect ourselves. And, the other thing that's important to us as well when we were thinking about scripting for Sigma Xi on this video was the fact that a lot of videos that are out there right now are very lecture-based and dry, and they're very like, you must wear a mask, you have to do this, you have to do that. That's not the right way to effectively communicate with patients. And as I mentioned before, if you lend a listening ear and you pay attention to what people are saying and you just empathize and in a non-judgmental way say to them, I understand what you're saying, but how about we look at this in a different angle? It can really change the minds of people. And like I said, we've gotten lots of positive responses, and we're really excited about this. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done thus far.
Before we go, give me an opportunity to share with our viewers, if someone wants to see this video and maybe they're not a part of the medical community, how do they go about seeing this video and where can they access it?
All they have to do is search for COVID-19 Doesn't Care and the Scientific Honor Society, and they'll find it on all these different platforms. And I hope that they'll share it with friends and family and so forth to get out the message. Because as Dr. Ishak said, too often the experts in the fields, whether they're a scientist or physician scientists, they tend to not be effective communicators. They tend to turn the public off about talking in scientific and technical terms. We really wanted this to speak to their hearts rather than their minds.
Dr. Jeff, Dr. Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing with us the great work that's going on. And obviously, as we're talking about a potential second wave and we're trying to navigate through this, your work is very important and very timely for a time such as this. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All righty. And we want our viewers to stay with us because guess what? We do have more open coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back. in a few.
Who's most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people, avoid crowds, stay home if you can, wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
And thank you for staying with us. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected a lot of people across the world, and particularly at this time during the holiday season. A recent Fresh Direct customer survey recently revealed that attendance will be 55% smaller at Thanksgiving holidays due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Fresh Direct is serving complete Thanksgiving dinners to families across New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, as well as Pennsylvania. They're also in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. And actually, they're hosting their annual Bronx Thanksgiving event. Joining us now to share a little bit more is the director, or I should say the vice president of public affairs for Fresh Direct, Larry Scott Blackmon. And Larry Scott Blackmon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me back.
Hey, glad to have you. I mean, honestly, with all that's going on, and as we approach the holiday season, a lot of people are still going to be in a place where they really just are without. And so I know the Fresh Direct is doing a good job of trying to step up to the plate and bridge the gap. Give us a little bit about your anticipation as to what you think you're going to see this holiday season.
Well, we've already noticed some trends and some things that have made us adjust. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, not only are families more in need, but families are planning to have smaller gatherings. And so what that does is that obviously impacts what we offer, the quantities of what we offer. We still have items available, but we notice that families are going with their smaller gatherings. They will be ordering smaller items and smaller turkeys, smaller meals, not as many sides. And that's the unfortunate side of this pandemic. But thankfully, families are still getting together. They're still trying to honor the spirit of the holidays, and we're here to service them.
Yeah. And when we talk about these Thanksgiving meals, obviously you said that they're being catered in a different kind of way. Talk to us about how you've had to make that adjustment, because a lot of us wouldn't think that we would be in this place and this pandemic in November in Thanksgiving, but yet and still the fact remains we're here.
Yes, that's the fact. We are here. And in terms of preparation, we have items that we're offering. So for example, we know that we have turkeys that are a little bit smaller in size this year. We're not, we're not seeing the large turkeys, even though they're available. We were working with the people that we source with to offer smaller turkeys, some chef prepared items that we have, smaller items, tenderloins that may have already been prepped and ready to go. So, we're paying attention to the trends, and we are being nimble enough to be able to accommodate families as their needs shift and change as well.
Yeah. Also, what you're talking about offering during this time is also chef-prepared meals. Give us a little bit about how people can tap into those chef-prepared meals.
Visit our site. We have a team of chefs that do a phenomenal job. Just the other day, I was walking past our R&D kitchen, and there was a chef in there who had prepared one of our dishes, and he had asked, I was with the guest, and he had asked us to stop and taste something because they wanted to make sure that we were offering it and preparing it the correct way. And so our team does a phenomenal job. Even, my personal order, I load up on some of the chef's prepared meals, and we encourage our viewers, the viewers of your program, to utilize the service for your Thanksgiving and your holiday celebrations. It makes the task of preparation that much easier, and you're getting high quality food sourced from places that you can trust. That will definitely provide some joy to you during the holiday.
Yeah. Every Bronx we can be treated to an annual event coming from Fresh Direct. What's it going to look like this year?
Well, every year for the last 6 years, we've been thankful enough that the community partners with us to provide some cheer during the holiday season. And this year we have a large scale event that is going to be really phenomenal and just blow the socks off of some of the things that happen in the community. This year we're partnering with institutions like City Harvest and some friends, the Kai Family Foundation, which is basketball star Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets. We are working with the Slick Rick Entertainment Corporation, which is legendary hip hop artist Slick Rick. I mentioned City Harvest. They are partnering with us, Virtue Financial. And what we're doing is we are offering 700 Thanksgiving packages. We've nicknamed it Givember because this is a season of giving. And so thanks to partners, again, like Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz, who will be there, the NYPD who's assisting us, Eastside Settlement House, we will be at Mitchell Houses and we will be providing all of this for the community. We have tickets, 700 tickets that we are donating out to the Bronx community. And we're offering everything from the turkey to the sides to even the desserts. Thanks to the Kai Family Foundation, we have 700 apple pies that the community will be able to take home. So just imagine that, dinner rolls, apple pies, sides, turkeys, and we're going to be out there with music, and we are so, so happy and pleased that at a time when people are struggling, we will even have PPEs, by the way, but at a time where folks are struggling to figure out how to make their next meal happen, that we are able to provide this service. And we are thankful to you and BronxNet for providing a forum for us to be able to communicate that out to the community. So, definitely reach out to Community Board 1. We will be distributing some tickets through the Bronx Borough President's Office and other vehicles to make sure that we reach as many people as possible with this opportunity.
And so going into the new year, have you guys looked at going into the new year COVID ready, and what does that look like for you?
Well, we've never actually stopped being COVID ready. Here in the office, we took precautions to prep our team and to make sure that we provided a safe work environment, that we provided when we had engagement with our customers, that we wanted our customers to know that we were doing everything we could to make sure that they were safe in the engagement with our customers, and we will continue to do those things. I am extremely proud of this company and what this company's done in the middle of a global pandemic. As you may recall, we partnered with the city of New York to assist New Yorkers throughout the pandemic, and we distributed nearly 500,000 boxes of food, over 4 million pounds of food to New Yorkers in need throughout this COVID pandemic. So we were ready then, we are ready now, and we will be ready in the future. And the hope is that as we adjust as a society and there's some solutions that are developed, that we'll have to, that we will, like the rest of the world, slowly come down off of this. But for right now, we are prepared and we are doing everything we can to make sure that we stay COVID ready.
Yeah. What have you learned through all of this? I mean, it's been a process. I always ask people, for a pandemic that none of us anticipated, and a pandemic that's taught us a lot of things. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned out of this?
For me personally, seeing everyone, I learned that heroes come in many shapes, forms, and fashions. The person delivering the mail is a hero. The person delivering your food is a hero. I've learned a lot about fear and the conquering of fear. We've learned so much here that there are people who, in the middle of the pandemic, at the very beginning, when there weren't facts about it, that there were people who wanted to work. People wanted to work. They wanted to come out and serve. If the trains were shut down, then people found a way to get to work. And so this has taught us about the resiliency of the neighborhoods that we've served. This has taught us about the resiliency of the human spirit. It's taught us a lot about the fact that there are people that no matter what, when the odds are against them, they will continue to do what they need to do. And I'll just say this in closing this particular question. It's taught us a lot. It's taught us a lot about communication. 2 years ago, many of us would never even be on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or WebEx and, FaceTime. And now this has not only become a way of life, but we've learned how to communicate differently, how to commune in a certain way. And so through food, we've been able to connect with people in manners and ways that we've never learned. I've talked to customers, I've seen customers cry, and I've seen them cheer. I've seen people scream for food, and I've seen them offer their willingness and desire to help. So I apologize for going long, but that's a spirited question because I actually have a diary that I've kept throughout all of this. And the hope is that, a few years from now, when I'm old and gray and I'm sitting down, looking at my diary, we'll look back and read about all of the things that we learned throughout this crisis.
Yeah, no, thank you. Might have been long, but it's certainly not wrong. Larry Scott Blackmon, Fresh Direct, thank you so much for sharing with us. And thank you for the great work that Fresh Direct is doing and being a blessing to our community as well as your community partners. Much needed for the people in our borough and New York City at a time such as this. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. And thank you to BronxNet. And just always shout out to the Bronx. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, I want to let you know if you want to find out more about Fresh Direct, what do? You can go to their website. Their website is freshdirect.com and more on their social media pages at Fresh Direct. We are taking a quick break here on Open. We'll return with more show. Stay with us. We're coming right back in a few.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scale of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from BronxNet, this is
And welcome back. The New Yorkers for Parks mission has been to ensure all New Yorkers in all neighborhoods have access to quality parks as well as open spaces. New York for Parks conducts research and develops tangible policy recommendations around findings related to park development, management, and sustainability. Here now to share a little bit more is the Executive Director of New Yorkers for Parks, Adam Ganser. And Adam, we're glad to have you sharing with us.
I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Well, glad to have you. We know, particularly here in the Bronx and also in New York City, a lot of parkland to cover, a lot to be a good steward over. But given the current climate, we've got COVID-19, of course, budget cuts that are looming, probably an estimation of like 14%. How do you see things playing out for parks?
Well, the fiscal year 21 budget cut was exactly 14%. That's $85 million. And it's really devastating for the Parks Department, particularly now as more people are in their parks than ever before, obviously because of COVID-19. That's going to play out even worse over the winter and into the spring as we're seeing another wave of COVID and people more and more relying on their parks through the shoulder seasons.
Yeah. And when we talk about people relying on parks, a lot of people are outside. That means an increased need of services, I would assume. And we'll probably have more people possibly in parks than normal. How do you see things playing out in terms of bridging that gap? Because we're going to be going to parks.
Yeah, the reality is we've seen the impacts of these budget cuts already. There's just a tremendous amount of trash in the parks that's harder for the Parks Department and the different not-for-profit organizations that manage parks to deal with. There's areas in the parks that have not been maintained to the level that we'd all love and rely on. And that's just going to get worse over the next several months. Bridging the gap is going to be very difficult unless we change the direction of the funding in the next fiscal year. The Parks Department has been asked to do more with less, but before time we're going to see them doing less with less, and that's going to have an impact on all New Yorkers.
Yeah. Did you foresee this coming? I mean, we knew that there would be cuts, possibly, given the fact that we had COVID-19, all the state and city resources being moved around and juggled around. Did you anticipate this heavy a cut?
No, we didn't. I think that we lead something called the Play Fair Coalition, which is over 300 organizations around the city that is really focused on the city's budget. And we were advocating all through the beginning of COVID up until the budget season that this was not the time to cut parks. And while we expected to have some cuts, as all agencies expected because of the economic crisis and the city budget crisis, The 14% represents a disproportionate amount compared to other agencies. This is more as a percentage than all but one other agency, which is a real problem.
What does park equity look like for you? I mean, we hear about, advocating for parks, but for someone with boots on the ground, what does park equity really look like?
There's many different ways to measure park equity. I think the number one way that I measure it is through access. Do people have access to a public open space that's near their neighborhood? And this is something that New York has been challenged by for a long time. Of the 1,700 parks in the city, most of them are small parks in neighborhoods. And what we've seen, especially at the beginning of COVID, is when many of these small parks and playgrounds were shut down, over 1 million New Yorkers lost access to their neighborhood park. And unfortunately, those are in neighborhoods primarily with communities of color and to be honest, neighborhoods that were most impacted by COVID. So it's really a dire situation.
Yeah. You're with New Yorkers for Parks. You're the executive director. For someone who doesn't know about New Yorkers for Parks, please take the time to share a little bit about the organization.
We are the city's only independent not-for-profit advocating for parks and open space. You mentioned at the beginning that we do a lot of research, we do a lot of advocacy around the budget, and we work with a lot of partners on future policy for New York City. And we've been doing that for a long, long time. This is a particularly important moment for the organization as we are seeing the combination of budget cuts and people relying on parks more than ever before. And we're convinced that there's a new way forward, and this will be an inflection point for the city with a focus on open space and parks for the future.
Yeah, you got a lot of challenges, but I know volunteers also play an important part in getting that done as well, and organizations. How have they navigated, and what can we do going forward?
It's been challenging, but people are really looking to kind of get their hands dirty and get out and do something. We've been all cooped up for so long and everybody's sitting in their apartments. So getting out in parks and helping in parks has been really extraordinary. We, with a number of other organizations around the city, helped organize cleanups in over 60 parks around the city, all 5 boroughs. And that's something that had started long before we started championing it, but it will continue, and it's certainly a welcome sight for all the park stewards in the city. I will say that that is not a replacement for the Parks Department staff that has not been hired or will be laid off in the future. We really need the professionals out there doing the work, but volunteers have been fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we've just got finished the presidential election 2021. We will be having citywide mayoral elections. How much do you think the Parks Department, or I should say Parks as a whole, not the Parks Department, how much do you think Parks is actually going to be a part of that city agenda? Are you convinced that there will be enough and adequate talk about advocacy for parks?
That's our job, is to make sure that it is part of the conversation. I don't think there's ever been another point in the recent history of New York, at least, where parks and open space haven't been such a priority for all New Yorkers. I think one of the critical things to do is certainly, obviously, get the budget back to where it needs to be, but look bigger picture and longer term with potential stimulus money, infrastructure money, and transportation money, and looking at how park development can be coupled with a lot of those larger initiatives to make sure we're giving access to all New Yorkers.
Yeah, you've got a lot of advocacy that goes on, and we talked about the elections that are coming forward. Obviously, your voice wants to be raised and amplified. How did the public, particularly those of us who are, on the other side of the camera, say, listen, you know what, I hear this. I love my park. I got great open space, where I want to see more open space. How do they participate in this public dialogue moving forward?
Well, first, you could go to our website and look at the variety of different ways you can get involved in our organization, and we'd love to have more people involved. Second, I would suggest that everybody contact their local council person and make their voices heard, that parks and open space are a critical part of their lives. And then the last thing is keep an eye on the candidates. If this is an important issue to you, the candidates for mayor should be raising this as part of their policy initiatives. That's what we're going to be pushing for. So all folks should pay attention to who's running and what they're saying.
Yeah. As we approach 2021, what is your focus? I mean, obviously, we've got some things coming around the corner. We've got a new president that's elected. Talk to us about how this all plays out for you and what you aim to do towards 2021.
Going kind of in reverse order from those things that I'm hopeful for to those things that really need to be taken care of right away. As I mentioned, federal dollars coming into the city represent a huge opportunity for us to address these larger issues of park access and equity. So that's certainly a priority. The capital budget for the parks system has been one that's been depleted over generations. And so we're looking to make sure that all the repairs that are required to our parks, the infrastructure repairs that are required to our parks are raised to a level that they're being talked about by all elected officials. And then I think the general operations funding, the parks budget really needs to be addressed. This 14% cut, $85 million is really devastating. And the impacts of that are going to be seen absolutely in the spring. They've already been seen. And so we're really going to be putting our fingers on the button there, pushing for a budget change in the next fiscal year and pushing for greater gains with the new administration.
I don't want to thank you. That's about all time we have for our segment, but we'll be continuing to follow this story as we go into 2021. And we do know that parks will definitely be a part of the conversation, if not on the part of politicians, definitely on the part of you advocating towards politicians. So thanks a lot, Adam.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
All righty. Well, we want to let you know if you want more information, don't forget to go to their website, and also you can follow them on Instagram and Twitter at NY4P. NY4P. Don't go anywhere. More show is coming up. We'll return right after this. The Radiologic Technology program in the Department of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences at Bronx Community College prepares students as entry-level qualified licensed and registered radiographers. The mission of the program is to prepare its students for careers in the diagnostic imaging services, as well as through a challenging, progressive academic and clinical environment. Joining us now to share a little bit more is the Professor for Radiologic Technology and Chairperson for Nursing and Allied Health Sciences, Annette Ortiz, and also X-ray Technologist at Montefiore Medical Center, Jessica Santos. And welcome you both to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. And so I will go first with you, and I will talk to you first, Professor Ortiz, a little bit about this program, because it really gives people an opportunity to get entry level into a career that's quite booming.
The radiology program is a 2-year program. It's an associate's degree level. Our students go from starting fall, let's say they come in 2021, they go until 2022. There is a 2-year program. We have hospital affiliates. We have 4 hospital affiliates: Montefiore Medical Center, Montefiore Wakefield, Jacobi Medical Center, and Columbia Presbyterian. It's a 2-year program. We accept 40 students in the beginning of the fall semester. They would have to finish their prerequisites during the spring prior to entering. The prerequisites are Math 13 or Math 30 and Bio 23. They must receive a C+ or higher in order to get accepted into the program. They have to have a minimum GPA of a 2.8 or higher in order to be accepted for the fall. Now, Math 30 it's a good math to have. We do recommend our students to take Math 30 instead of Math 13, because they are able to transfer that credit out to a 4-year program. After the completion of the 2 years, they're certified radiologic technologists. They are able to perform diagnostic x-rays, anything from fluoroscopy, working in orthopedics, doing just bone radiology. Then they can also move on to other modalities such as CAT scan, mammography, angiography, cardiac catheterization, all depending how they want to venture out into the field. They can also get into sales. They can get into management, teaching, as I did. That's basically it. That's the 2-year program. It is a challenging program. We are very honest with our students from day one that this is a very challenging program. At the end, their career is basically they're responsible for human beings.
Right.
So we do hold our students to a very high standard, high expectation. And also, during this time, during COVID, this has been a perfect example, and even showing them and teaching them how challenging this job can get. It's not just learning and memorizing. You have to make sure you understand the concept to what we're teaching. And students very early on, they do realize and they recognize they cannot go through the program just memorizing. They have to understand what's going on.
Well, it actually is a perfect time to bring Jessica in right now. And Jessica is a 2019 graduate of the program. She's actually taken part, and now she's working in the field. And Jessica, give us a little bit as she is walking about. Let us know a little bit about what you're doing.
Okay, so I'm currently working at Montefiore Medical Center at the main Moses campus. I'm at the orthopedic clinic where we see from fractures to basically surgeries, from knee replacements to hip replacements, all of that type of stuff. When it comes to my preparation, I feel like I couldn't have chosen a better program, honestly. I've heard from other places, other colleges that offer the radiology program, and I feel like I chose the best place, being that once I was hired here, there was no fright in me. I felt so ready. I was so secure about who I was and what I was about to do that it was perfect.
And how do you feel being a technologist? I mean, obviously you graduated, that's what you wanted to do, but now that you're actually working in the field, what's it feel like for you working on a day-to-day basis? And particularly during a time like this with COVID-19, you're actually on the front lines.
Right. So when COVID-19 actually hit, our orthopedic clinic closed, and we were sent off to the main hospital where we were teamed up into groups of 2, and we were basically in the front lines taking those x-rays of the people who had tragically, attained the virus. So on a day-to-day, it's just a relief. I honestly feel like all the stress that we underwent in the program for those 2 years, it paid off. All the studying, all the sleepless nights. It's just good to finally be here and not studying anymore.
Yeah. And Professor, talk to us a little bit about the program in terms of more students like Jessica. Do you find that more and more people actually gravitating towards your program?
Yes, we do have more and more students gravitating to the program. Again, we do have, we have students also that, apply for the program with a false expectation they could just, swing by the 2-year program and not study, and they don't really have the full idea of what exactly this entails. It's not about just sticking a part under a light field and taking a picture. There's more to it. We're dealing with radiation, and during advisement, we do have to explain this to the students. A lot of times the students come in and, they pick a program. They're like, oh, this looks interesting. And they don't really understand what is behind the program. So during advisement, we do make it our business to explain to the students what does the program entail, that it's, it's a 2-year program, block schedule, we give you the schedule. You can't pick when, what time or when you want to take certain classes. Everything falls one after the other once you're in the program for 2 years. So once we explain all of that, we do get students that are very excited to enter the program, and they're very much more interested in getting into the program. And once they're in, they're already ready, and they know that they do have to study and basically give up all their time to succeed in the program. So yeah, we do have a lot of students gravitating to us more and more, and we do have 100% pass rate in our registry. So with that, we've been pretty good in that standing, and adjusting to this. I don't like to call it the new norm because I don't want to accept that this is the new norm. Hopefully I'll be back on campus with my students pretty soon. I know this semester we're still going to be online. However, it's been a challenge, but for the most part, to answer your question, yes, we do have a lot of students more and more gravitating to the nursing and allied health sciences.
Yeah. Jessica, real quick before we go, what advice would you give to a student who may be thinking about this program? Give a quick word of advice.
I honestly feel like it would be the best decision that they can ever make, because from the minute they get into the program, you now join a family. You have an army of students behind you. You have those teachers behind you. You have a group of people who are rooting for you and supporting you in every single thing that you do. You don't study alone. You don't do anything by yourself once you're in that program, because you move on with this same group of people for those 2 years straight. So I honestly feel like if they're thinking about it, they shouldn't think about it anymore. It's an amazing place to be. In terms of preparation, they will prepare you more than you need to be prepared. So in terms of being afraid of having to take boards after, it does not matter, because honestly, that was one of my fears. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go take x-rays on real people at the hospital, and I'm gonna have to take a test afterwards. But from the moment I stepped foot in that program and I saw all the people that supported you, whenever you had a question, office hours are open. You just have a family behind you, an army behind you, rooting for you to basically make it. So I honestly feel like it shouldn't be something that they have to think about. They should just do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Congratulations. You are doing it, and we want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Professor Annette, thank you so much for being with us here on Open. We'll certainly give the information so that people can find out about a career in radiologic technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, I want to let you know if you want more information, yes, go to the website. And if you go to the website at bcc.cuny.edu. Once again, bcc.cuny.edu to find out more about that program and a whole lot more. And we want to tell you, unfortunately, we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, but most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. If you missed any part of our show, well, you can catch the recablecast on BronxNet's Channel 67. And if you have Verizon Fios, that'd be Channel 2133. And anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. For all of us here on the set of Open, I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless. If you want a fresh episode of Open, join us on Friday. My girl, Rena Valentine, will join you with arts and entertainment. Until then, talk to you soon.